Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You guys know what I like to do on my show. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. That's what we want to do today. We want to get you fired up about my guest. We'll be spending time with Jackie Gaines today, and we'll be talking about our book, He Thought, She Thought, They Thought. So, you know what I'm going to tell you to do. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Hello, Jackie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Dr. Angela. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, we have a little bit of a tradition. Give every guest an opportunity to introduce themselves. We realize that some of our listeners may be unfamiliar with you or your work. So, first question is, what makes you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am a mother of 3 children. I attended Seattle University with a major in criminal justice. I am a new author, and this is my first book that I wrote.
Mm-hmm. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that this was one of the best ways to share your message, to share your words with the world?
It was a way that I found to share my words with the world. I was faced with some challenging situations over 15 years ago, so I decided to start focusing on the good and not the bad to make it through my day. Every day seemed to
Absolutely.
leave me torn by the day's end. So I started to find ways that I could enlighten my day. Even though I managed to continue to smile, I often meditated, I prayed, and I read
Right.
my Bible.
Oh
Then
wow, that
one
is so
day,
awesome. That is
yes,
so awesome. Let me ask you about the title of the book. He thought, she thought, they thought. Now, anyone passing by seeing that on a bookshelf, I think is going to pause for a moment because it's a little intriguing. If we were using an emoji, there's definitely a teacup there. Uh-oh, what's happening here? Let's read the back of this book. Why was that the proper title for this work?
well, first it was a very difficult and challenging task because I knew I wanted something that would resonate and reverberate with my readers. So myself and my daughter, we got together and we brainstormed, and we came up with about maybe 5 to 6 different titles. We ended up narrowing it down to 3 titles, and we chose this particular title is because when you think about it, no one thinks alike. And I always say if everyone is thinking, then no one is thinking. And that was the reason for the title. He thought, she thought, they thought.
I like it. It is that little bit of intrigue there that really is such a great teaser. This is why folks do what they do, because they're sharing, and it really does get the reader involved. I love that. I love that. Now, I try to ask this question of all of my guests, and that is, would you say that your book is appropriate for someone as young as high school, or should they perhaps be college age? Do they need a little bit more life experience to be able to follow along?
Actually, I intended the book to be for teenagers, but actually it could be for everyone because when you think about it, our teenagers today are seriously different from the teenagers in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Technology has taken over, and critical thinking is almost obsolete in many cases. We have peer pressure with drugs, the bullying, and anything else you can think that high schoolers are going through today. A lot of times when these kids are in high school, they don't really have anyone to go talk to. So that was my main focus as who I wanted the book to be intended for, but it could be intended for couples and singles as well.
Oh, I like that. That is a way that something that you could do together to read the book and be able to talk about it and have that a part of your couples time. I like that you included that aspect of it as well. Now, when it comes to being the inspiration to write, so many authors have shared that they were almost nudged or prompted, encouraged by others, that there was something that happened along the way that they knew, you know what, I need to write. I need to get this into the world and share this. What was your inspiration behind writing, or did you feel more inspired as you started to write?
Well, one of my closest friends, his name is Dr. Peter Grimes. What I did, I would often send these daily thoughts out to my family and friends, and he suggested one day that I should put them together and write a book. So he was my biggest influencer and my supporter. And there's a lot of other thoughts that I have not put into the book in more depth. The other motivational book will be coming out real soon after this one here.
Mhm, mhm. And I find it to be some form of common denominator. There is always that really, really great friend that tells us, you should do this or you should do that. And sometimes they're 100% spot on. Sometimes it's only maybe 60 or 70%, but that extra little nudge that they give us is really the confirmation behind um, part of the success that many authors have had. I found that is so remarkable. I love that. I love that. Now, one of the questions that I really think is important is, how should we read the book? I am a firm believer that every author writes a book in a way that takes us along on the journey. That you guys put section one before section two, or chapter one before chapter two, for a reason, because you want us to read it the way in which you have presented it. Is there a best way to read your book? Can they roulette read, meaning pick it up and start anywhere? Or should we read first page through last page?
No, you could actually start anywhere because, like I said, they're basically motivational quotes. And each person has a different thing that they're going through every day. So one person might be going through something the other person might not be. So you do not have to start at the beginning. You can start at the very back, or you can start in the middle, or you can start at the beginning. There's no particular spot that you could start in.
I like that. I have several friends. In part, the reason why I asked this question, because they are the type of people that like to check out the last page first, regardless of the genre of the book. They like to read that last page to help determine if they want to start the book. So thank you for that clarification there. I love it. Well, Nikki, it is time for us to take a very short break, but when we do, I definitely want to talk a little bit more about and have you share a bit more if you don't mind. But before we do that, can you remind everyone, what is the title of this book? Where can we get a copy? And if we want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
The title of the book is He Thought, She Thought, and They Thought. And it can be found on Amazon or my publisher, cityofbooks.com. If you want to reach out to me, I can be found at Jackie Gaines 82, and that's on Instagram.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Have the past few weeks or months been challenging? Yes, for all of us. We've been thrown into circumstances which we could never have imagined. Loss of jobs, working from home, general uncertainty. It's causing us to be a little on edge. If you need someone to talk to, Dr. Angela Chester can help. Visit newlifepastoralcounseling.com to get started. We're in this together.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Jackie Gaines, and we're talking to her about her book, He Thought, She Thought, They Thought. Now, Jackie, my next question for you is, let me give my disclaimer first, because I always try to do that. You guys know what I'm going to say. If you want to know how the story ends, you got to buy the book. If you want to know what's on the last page, you got to buy the book. Now, with that being said, I want to ask you about, I usually say, tell us about the main character of the book. But you have written from an inspirational point of view. So would you say that the character of your book is a devotional voice? Is it an empowering, inspirational voice? What is the tone of your book, and why was it important to give it that tone?
The tone is more of an inspirational tone because if we do not lift ourselves up, no one else will. So that was the tone of the book. I wanted it to be more of an inspirational/motivational because, like I said, if we do not lift ourselves up, no one else will.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. Having that positive self-talk, I think, is so important. And I try to remind folks, you listen to yourself more often than anyone else. Our lips may not be moving for others to hear, but we're constantly speaking with or to ourselves, do this and go over here, and oh my goodness, I forgot that. We're constantly having conversation, and we do have to be aware of, not only aware of what we're saying, but how we're speaking to ourselves, so that we can be conscious of how we're speaking to others. You are so right there. Now, I want to ask you, or kind of wrap back around, you were hinting at that there is a sense of routine, or there's a something that you do. Do you find that your meditation time, your prayer time, that all of that is important, and how does that help you when it comes to being an author?
How that helps me is because basically it clears my mind, number one. It relaxes me, and it makes me have something to look forward to for the rest of the day. It also helps me because I know that I'm able to help other people, because you never know what someone else is going through. Someone can be having a bad day, and if they read one of those thoughts, it might just change their entire day.
You are so right there. I remember when my son was little, I used to remind him, sometimes when you go to the store and you see an adult kind of acting up or acting out, having a moment with the cashier. And I would tell him, you never know what someone is going through. They could be at a very bad place in their lives. So that's why we need to be so as kind as we can be, and to be prepared to share that word of encouragement with someone else. Now, don't get me wrong, I didn't try to my son into an old softie or anything like that, but just being aware and being mindful. You are so right. We have to be prepared for those things. So many times people are looking to us to be that ray of sunshine that they absolutely positively need. You're so right there. Now, would you say that one of the best ways that you could take this book to heart is to almost use it as a personal challenge, or like homework, if you will? Read what you need to read, and then figure out, how can I make this a part of my day-to-day life? Is that one way that we could utilize this book?
Yes, because like I said previously, you just never know what you might be going through. You can have something that is pressing, and once you go ahead and you meditate, it basically clears your mind and it frees your mind from everything else. When we meditate, it relaxes our mind, it relaxes our body, and we're free to be able to do the things that we were not able to do in the beginning. Meditation to me is very important because it's a close call with yourself and who you're trying to get in tune to be. And I always say, always be better than you were the day before. If you want to be better, you have to be better than the day before.
Agreed. So many people, I think, are looking to be their best self. They take on that challenge in a positive way. At the end of the day, I encourage people to journal as much as they can, or if you want to use the word diary, write your diary, or maybe you don't like those words. I don't want to journal. I don't want to write my diary. Okay, jot down some things that happened. And when we do, and we write down or make mention or note those things that we are grateful for, those positive interactions that we had, it really does change your mindset and allows you to meditate on those positive things. I love that you are doing this. Well, Nikki, it is time for us to take a very short break, but when we do, I definitely want to talk a little bit more about and have you share a bit more if you don't mind. But before we do that, can you remind everyone what is the title of this book? Where can we get a copy? And if we want to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
The title of the book is He Thought, She Thought, and They Thought. And it can be found on Amazon or my publisher, cityofbooks.com. If you want to reach out to me, I can be found at Jackie Gaines 82, and that's on Instagram.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Jackie Gaines, and we're talking to her about her book, He Thought, She Thought, They Thought. Now, if there is one thing that, while you were in the process of writing the book, is there one thing that really stood out for you? Is there one particular message that you share that you want to make sure that the readers pick up along the way?
Never underestimate your problems and never underestimate yourself.
That is so empowering. So many people, I think, are starting to break free from some very disheartening words that were perhaps spoken to them as young folk, that they couldn't do something or that they couldn't achieve a particular something. I'm finding that more and more people are starting to believe the positive words that they are being introduced to as young adults, or even as some of us, a little more seasoned adults, have that positive mindset so that we can continue to move forward in an inspiring way. I like that. Now, I want to shift gears just a little bit and ask you some questions about the process things that happened. My aspiring authors are one of the biggest groups that email us and say, Dr. Angela, thanks for asking on our behalf. We're always told that we should ask a mentor, ask someone who has successfully done what you want to do. And today that is you, Jackie, our successful author. So here we go. When you were in the process of writing, did you find that you needed a particular atmosphere or environment around? Did you need it to be quiet, or did the hustle and bustle of the day bother you? Some people like to have a little white noise in the room, or have the television on when they're writing. What worked best for you?
The best way it was for me is a peace and quiet, because I was able to process my thoughts more clearly when I was able to have the room very quiet. Noise would be a hindrance to me because it would kind of throw my thoughts off a little bit. So my best way was to have peace and quiet while I was writing this book. There were times that I would get a brain freeze, like most authors do, I'm sure, often more than once. And I did have that quite a bit. And I kind of got discouraged with that. But then what I found myself doing is I put the pencil down and I left it there for a couple of days to give my mind time to rest. After I did that, I came back to the drawing board and started all over again.
I like that idea of, put the pencil down and allow your mind to reset and come up with the next portion instead of forcing it to happen. Allow your mind to do what it needs to come back to that place. Great advice there. I think that's why so many folks I think get stuck with the writer block. They don't know to just step away and allow for it to happen naturally or organically. So I like that answer. Now, once you were done with it all, and it is now time to actually publish the book, every author has to decide if they are going to try to pitch their book to the big brands, to the big publishing houses, and that they pick them up, or at the option of using professional services where you are going to, pay them to handle everything. Then there's the option of I want to self-publish. I want to be responsible. I want to handle all of the dotting the I's and crossing the T's. I believe I could do it. I'm going to self-publish. How did you make your determination of how you were going to publish your book?
My determination was made because, first of all, I've never written a book before. Like I said, this is my first book. And I felt that I needed someone to kind of guide me along the way. And I have to really give thanks to my publisher because they let me do a lot more than I think a lot of publishers would. I was more involved in this book than a lot of people know, and that right there sat very well with me. I really appreciated that because they actually went in my direction. They asked me what did I want, and I really appreciated that. So self-publishing to me would have really probably made it be a lot longer, to publish the book because I've never did this before. So they basically gave me the blueprint, and we ran with that.
More and more authors are using the professional services the first time around and perhaps self-publishing the second or third book because now they know what to expect. But right, I find that in listening to the stories, that is concern for so many authors. I don't want for the publishing company to change my idea or to change the vision that I have for this book. So I can definitely understand that would be important. So like you said, kudos to them for realizing that you had a particular vision and to be able to help you with that. Now, when you were holding copy number one, I like to say fresh, hot off the presses, right? Right out of the delivery envelope, you have book number one of your work. How did you feel in that moment?
I was very elated to see my work in print because I did not think it would be able to happen. And it actually happened. And I'm actually proud of myself because it was something I never thought that I would be doing. And now that I did this, I see myself writing more books in the near future. I have a couple more books that's on the table with my publisher that we're working on now.
Oh, that is exciting, and thank you for answering the next question. Are there any in the works? So you said there are. That is awesome. Now, when it comes to a piece of wisdom that you would leave that nugget of wisdom that you would leave with an aspiring author, what would that piece of wisdom be? Are there something that you learned that you really want to make sure that they know, or maybe an obstacle that needs to be overcome, however you wish to share. But what would that nugget of wisdom be for our aspiring authors?
It would be to stop comparing yourself to other people and use self-discipline because the size of our problems is nothing compared with our ability to solve them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you for that. Now, Just a few more questions for you, and that is, we realize that the world is starting to uh, discover its new normal. We have lived through a pandemic. Thank God, we're no longer dealing with that anymore. But I think that we have learned some lessons along the way for sure. Um, During that time, did you find that you were more inspired to write? I find that some of the authors I've spoken to said that they use that time to actually be more creative. You have books that are coming out in the future. Were you too one of those authors that used the pandemic to be more creative?
Yes, I was more creative because I found myself being bored, not having to do, could not go out and go to work. So I used that time wisely, and I became more proactive in starting to write the book at that time.
I am finding that so many people use that time, and I think I'm even like ahead of the curve because that what was it, 2 years or so that we were really more homebound than anything else put me so far ahead. It would have taken 5 or 6 years for me to have that much time dedicated to be able to just sit down and write if we were looking at a traditional work day with perhaps an hour here or 30 minutes there to be able to write. Thank you for that. A word of encouragement for anyone that may be finding that their life has kind of changed a little bit or that they have more time on their hands. Use that to be creative. You never know what wonderful work you will create for a future book. I love it. I love it. Well, Jackie Gaines, thank you so much for spending time with me here today on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I have enjoyed my time with you, and I always encourage folks to pick up books that are encouraging and inspiring in matter. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, before I let you go, one last time, if you would please, can you remind everyone what is the title of this book? Where can we get a copy? And if someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
The title of the book is He Thought, She Thought, They Thought. It could be purchased at Amazon or cityofbooks.com. And you can find me at Jackie Gaines 82 on Instagram.
Thank you again, Jackie, for being a guest on the show.
Thank
And
you.
listeners, thank you for being here with us today as well. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend it with me, and I thank you for doing so. I hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you again today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine his face on you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye.